going on? I'm Estin for Hit the Floor. I'm here at the Bristol Academy with Robin from The Ocean. Mate, that was a brilliant set. Was it good for you?
Yeah, it was a fun show tonight, actually. Yeah, much better than last night, where everything was really rushed. Today we started 40 minutes after doors, which is great. And there were actually people in the room. It was a good show. We played here with Opeth in 2008, and quite a lot of people seem to remember us from back then. So yeah, we had a good night. Apart from the fact that I hit Loïc in the head and he was bleeding, and Luc destroyed his drum kit and like had to fix it for the whole duration of the show, basically. So
I won't lie, I did see that, and he didn't look very impressed at all after that. That was a mean swing you pulled off, though. Got kudos on the swing, though. That was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, obviously you've played all over the world by this point. I mean, I think I read it's over 400 shows you've probably played globally at the moment. I mean, as things go, obviously we're talking about the UK before. I mean, is the UK somewhere that you enjoy coming to?
I have to be honest, not at all. I hate the UK for a lot of reasons, but that's not fair. I mean, like, the shows here are good, the people are nice, and we found a place to stay at every night. That's awesome. So there are some positive aspects, but also a lot of negative aspects in terms of how bands are treated. Like, everywhere else in Europe, it's normal that as a support band you get decent rider and food, and that when they cook for all the bands. Yesterday they cooked for Dillinger and Rollo, and we were just left in the cold, basically. That's just bullshit. Like, we're touring as well. We're playing for £100 per night, which is half the fee we get everywhere else in Europe, basically. So it's just like, in every regard, the UK is just like, you come to the room, that's what you get, like water and beer, and there's no food whatsoever. That is like, even in Poland and Slovakia and Hungary in Eastern Europe, you get like buffets and like nice food, and that's important when you're on the road, because we're not doing it for the money, but we at least need to cover our basic human needs, and that is food and sleep, basically, and those are not being taken care of very well in the UK, and that's why we don't really like touring here so much.
Well, there you have it. All British venues, get your shit together, please, because the Ocean don't like it too much over here, and we wanted to keep going back. We mentioned Dillinger before. Obviously, I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, that's one of my favourite bands of all time.
I agree.
Yes,
couldn't agree more.
Certainly for the live performance. I mean, obviously, we've just seen you guys play live. I mean, you really give it everything. You leave it all out there from what we can see. When you're playing with a band like Dillinger, who are so notorious for having such an amazing live stage presence, does that raise your game? Do you really go for it a little bit more, knowing that those guys are around you in that kind of company?
It is inspiring in a way, yeah. I mean, they just destroy the stage every single fucking night of the tour, and it's amazing. They just deliver every single night, and they just don't care, They could stage everything better and fix things to make sure they don't break, but they just don't give a fuck. They do what feels right to them. They put the standards so high, that you can only fail opening up for the Dillinger Escape Plan. But it's like, it's okay to get your ass kicked by the Dillinger Escape Plan, I guess.
I think it is, but you did a pretty good job anyway, so I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Thanks.
But yeah, I think you're always going to look a bit of a limp dick after you when you're opening up for those guys. But yeah, I mean, your live show is certainly very visual, I think it's fair to say. I mean, obviously you have your light show, which I know is your baby primarily. That's something you've protected fiercely in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, how much thought do you put into playing live, or do you just sort of let it happen organically as much as you can?
There's lots of thought behind the technical environment, I would say. Like, the light show is programmed, it's sequenced. Every single like bar of the music has its own custom lighting going with it, and when there's like a break, it's black, and then you have strobes flashing in at the speed of the music or whatever. So there's lots of thought behind that, and normally we have visuals as well, videos that we can't run on this tour because Dillinger's lights are obstructing the space where our screen would hang, and
they're still taking us on the stage when they're not even on.
Yeah. Well, we knew that before, it's their tour, so that's totally cool with us. But normally we have visuals too, and the lighting, and there's lots of thought behind that. Whatever happens on stage is completely random. Like, we go on every night, and like, we're in a different mood every night. Tonight we were all pretty aggressive for some reason, I think, and you can
feel that
sometimes. Like, it's every show is different, but we don't like, you know, there's nothing choreographed or anything like that. We just do what we feel is right and play the show, and sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. So
yeah. I mean, you'll have to excuse my ignorance, but, you know, obviously I have listened to you an awful lot prior to this interview. Before that, I'd heard of you, obviously, because you've been around for a long time, but, you know, wasn't, you know, one of the bands I listened to all the time. But from listening to you more and more, I do get, and especially watching you live as well, I do get quite kind of a mix of quite a few genres. I mean, there's times when, obviously, when you go through your sort of more progressive sections, when it's actually much more melodic, but there's times when I'm thinking, you know, I'm hearing sort of shades of Hatebreed coming through there as well. Hatebreed? I know. I don't know where that came from. I thought surely I shouldn't be hearing this, but it was unmistakable. I mean, is that something you've always tried to do? Try and mix the genres as much as possible, or just mix as much variation in your music as you can?
We've never tried to clone Hatebreed. I have to disappoint you on that. But yeah, of course, like the dynamic and stylistic range of this band has been very large from the beginning, and we've always tried not to limit ourselves to playing one certain, you know, style of music and be a metal band or whatever. Our first album was instrumental, and, you know, that was like pretty mellow for the most part, but also with some heavy moments in it. And then, you know, we've always like tried to do something different with every album that we've done pretty much, and that's just what we need to do in order to keep it interesting for us and for our fans as well. And we just happen to all come from very, very different musical backgrounds. And that necessarily leads to us trying to incorporate all these elements into our own music. And yeah, we've always tried not to limit ourselves to one thing, basically, and everything's allowed with the Ocean. And that's basically the spirit behind the band. Yeah.
Right. I mean, a lot of people will still know you as the Ocean Collective, and obviously I know that is to an extent still part of the band, but not quite as much as it was. It seems to be sort of moving away from that slightly more. I know obviously you had the new singer come in fairly recently.
Yeah.
I remember I was saying in a few interviews that you said that all of you were pretty much saying the same thing, that it's opened up sort of new avenues for you, particularly with the clean vocals. You know, would you? And obviously that's quite apparent from what people have seen of the new record so far. Obviously it's not out quite yet, but would you say that because sort of he's sort of put the ice on the cake, really, and you sort of galvanised you with this, are you performing better than you have done for a while, do you think?
He's just opened up new horizons for us as a band, and that's the goal we had in mind when we started looking and reaching out for a new vocalist. We wanted to have someone that would enable us to do everything that you can do with vocals, basically, from soulful, like, you know, clean singing to death metal grunts, and Louis covers it all, and I'm very happy that we found him. And now there are no limits anymore. We can do anything, and, you know, that's what we've been doing with the last album. There's piano ballads on it, on Heliocentric, that are just basically based on like strings, piano, and clean vocals, and there are some crushing heavy tunes as well. And that's a very comfortable and cool situation to be in now, because we don't really have to think about what we want to do in terms of can we really do it. You know, Louis can do everything, so we can do anything as well, and that's just really cool feeling. That's really reassuring to know we could, you know, whatever, like, incorporate any kind of element into our music that there is, and that's really cool.
You're releasing 2 albums this year, is that correct? You've got another one out. Is it more?
First one, Heliocentric, came out in March. The next one's coming out in November, actually.
Right. Yeah. And so that would, like you say, the Heliocentric, that followed on more from the album before, this, in terms of the themes of the album. So the next one is going to be, like you say, as the title suggests, it's more to do with mankind, and sort of a lot of sort of Christian fundamentalist ideas that, you know, it's based around, not from yourself obviously, but from people who tend to believe that kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, it's not the first time that kind of thing's been brought up. Is that something you feel strongly about yourself?
Of course, like, all the lyrics are right, and the concepts I come up with for these albums are things I've been thinking about for years, and that are really important to me. Otherwise, you know, I wouldn't sing about it or like start writing songs about it. It's actually it's not so segregated. Like, Heliocentric started the critique of Christianity, and Anthropocentric is continuing it. Apparently, the 2 titles allude to 2 different worldviews, and actually it should have been the other way around. We should have started with geocentric or anthropocentric, you know, the idea that man is, or Earth is at the center of the universe, and then progress to heliocentric, but we thought that was a bit boring, so the first album was focused on the heliocentric turn, the discoveries that Copernicus and Galilei made, you know, that the Earth is actually not at the center of the universe, and the effects that has had on people's belief. And the second album is focusing on, you know, creationists and other Christian fundamentalists who still believe that this is the case, that man is the epitome of God's creation at the center of the universe. That's the very rough frame, you know, for these two albums. But they're dealing with Christianity from all different kinds of angles, and every single song and all the lyrics to all the songs are different and approaching the subject from a different angle.
And I think when there's still a bunch of people on the Earth that think the Earth is 5,000 years old, I think that warrants someone writing an album about that kind of thing. So thank you for everyone else. Yeah, I mean, obviously you said for the album coming out later on that you felt like doing a bit more of a sort of basic rock and roll album, and there's obviously some more technical sections and that kind of thing. It seems like as a band, you said yourself, you're constantly evolving. I mean, where do you see yourself going after this album's released?
I really honestly don't know. I'm a person that really tries to live in the present tense, and you know, I'm trying not to think too much about the past or the future. I'm not at the point where I'm even started worrying about the next album yet. Like these two albums have just been finished. It's been a process that took about 2 years, and we just got the master before we embarked on this tour, and now it's done, and that's it. And you know, I'm not even gonna start thinking about the new album before mid next year. It may continue the line lyrically, or like from a conceptual point of view. It may not. I have some other ideas that I want to do. Heliocentric, anthropocentric is complete now, you know, as it is. But you know, there's always room for another part or whatever. Like, we'll see where it takes us. I really don't want to think about that right now. Right now, we're going to tour quite a lot. After this tour, we're going to start supporting Anathema in Europe for about 3 weeks. Then we're going to the US and Australia next year, and coming back here to headline later in the spring. So that's the next projects that I'm thinking about. And the new album, we may start thinking about it next summer or something like that.
Not something you can bring yourself to look at right now. I imagine it was some hard work during the recording process. A lot of late nights, was it?
Yes, a lot of late nights. And I did get to that point that we talked about earlier where I was just really fed up with everything and just wanted to get out of it. And so I'm glad it's done now. It was a very tedious process in the end. Like, I mean, you know, you always have fun parts, fun sections, and then other parts that are just really tiring and long and boring. And recording 100 minutes of music more or less at once is a very like stressful process, you know. It just takes a long time. We did record all the instruments in one session and just added the vocals this year, and I think it's good to give yourself some time between releasing albums in order to, you know, recapture your energies and just be really focused and really be in the position where you want to do this again. And right now, if I had to start another album now, I'd be fucked. Like I wouldn't I wouldn't have the resources to do it right now. So that you know, that's changing quickly. Like in a year or maybe even just a couple of months, I'm going to be in that position where I want to enter the studio and write stuff again. It's just that now we're just done, so let it be. Let it sit for a while.
Alright, well, we're really glad you did, and I really enjoyed it, and I'm really excited to see what you do in the future. That was a great set you played tonight, so should we go and watch Dillinger in a bit then, yeah?
Yeah, check. Thanks, man.
Thanks for talking to us, though.